fourth with close to but not quite 80 wins. And then the Tigers will come in last place in the division with less than 80 wins this year. And there's your AL Central predictions. Let's move to the AL West. Yeah, that's right, because the West is the best. No, actually it's not, but it rhymes, so, that was the whole point there, I guess. But out West, I believe that the young upstart Houston Astros with Correa and all these other great young stars, Dallas Keuchel, however the heck you say his name, pitching ace. The Astros, to me, have got it. They've got momentum, they've got youth, they've got talent, they've got some experience now already to go along with that youth from last year. So I really like the Astros to win a solid 85 games or more this year and come out of a potentially tough AL West victorious. Behind them and getting the other wild card in the West, because I do have the Twins getting one of the two wild cards in the American League. I'll have the Angels getting the other wild card spot, where they will finish second in the West with somewhere between right around 85 wins, I'm guessing, as well. And then the Rangers will be the team trying to hang in there and steal a spot from the Twins. I have the Rangers at right around 80 wins as well. Look for the Mariners and the A's to win below 80 games. So Rangers, that might be around 85 yet too. 80 to 85 on the Rangers, 80 to 85 on the Angels, and 85 plus on the Astros. Under 80 wins for the Mariners, under 80 A's for the A's. A's and Mariners definitely bringing up the rear in that division. Make no mistake about it, all indications point to that division being a three-team race for the division. Now, finally wrapping up the American League out in the East, we have the reigning East champion Toronto Blue Jays, who last year made trades to acquire Troy Tulowitzki as their shortstop. They got David Price on their pitching staff. All kinds of big-time stuff. They were able to keep those pieces in place, as well as the young Josh Donaldson and Jose Bautista and Encarnacion. I mean, the Blue Jays are a team that is loaded from top to bottom. Their bullpen, primarily, in addition to their their pitching staff as a whole, will really be the key into whether this team is uber successful or a disappointment. The only other thing that could come into play would be major injury, but they got so many stars, one or two injuries, I don't think would even derail them. It would have to be pitching fails is the only thing that's going to hold back the Blue Jays potentially, but I don't think it will. And I am confidently ensuring that the Toronto Blue Jays will win 90 games this year or more, and without question win the AL East for a second consecutive year. Their closest competition in the division, I feel, is the Baltimore Orioles. They have a decent pitching staff. They've got a good lineup with Machado and Davis, power, youth. There's nothing in the Orioles' way from being successful other than the fact that they're the Baltimore Orioles. And they're aware of the fact that they're the Baltimore Orioles. Maybe if nobody told them they were the Baltimore Orioles, they might make it to the World Series. But I know that's harsh. I'm sorry. All my fans in Baltimore are just getting really upset right now because I've got a lot of them, by the way. But I do think the Orioles will contend for one of the two wild card spots in the American League, and I have them finishing somewhere between 80 and 85 wins. In third place, I have the Yankees struggling to win right around 80 games. I just don't feel the Yankees at all. They're still so old, and the big money contracts they have are just, I don't know. I don't like the way it's placed out when you consider the production and the age of the players involved in these big contracts. But I think the Yankees will still win around 80 games and try to contend for one of those wild card spots, but I don't think they can contend with the Blue Jays in that division at all. Behind them, I have the Red Sox in fourth. Again, kind of similar boat as the Yankees. Still in a rebuilding process, trying to, work out some of the out with the old era, in with the new talent, and just, it's a transitional period yet for both of these teams, I believe. And so I have both of them flirting with, trying to get to around 80 wins. And then finally, bringing up the rear, I have the Tampa Rays winning definitely less than 80 games in the AL East. They should be, in my opinion, the Rays, the A's, the Mariners, and the Tigers, those are your four worst teams in the AL, without question. I could be wrong. It's happened once, I've been told. But that's my picks for the American League, how they're going to finish. Now, let's stay in the American League and go over our other talking points, and then we'll just switch leagues, and we'll do the same for the National. So in the American League, like I said, your playoff teams, as I am predicting, is the Blue Jays winning the East, the Royals winning the Central, the Astros winning the West, and then your wild card teams will be the Angels and hopefully the Twins. If not the Twins, look for the Rangers or the Orioles to be the next in line for the wild cards, with outside possibilities at the Indians, Sox, other Sox, and Yanks. But then, let's see, what do I got? Okay, so advancing on through the playoffs to the ALCS, I am predicting that the Toronto Blue Jays and the Houston Astros will meet again in the playoffs next year, but this time it'll be to go, well, maybe last time it would, no. This time it'll be to go to the World Series. And the winner will be the Toronto Blue Jays. Just a little too much firepower. Astros are on the rise, but they're not quite there yet, so another good step for them. So I got the Blue Jays representing the American League in the World Series. And as far as regular season awards go, it's really hard in baseball, but so we do like we did last year, and we're going to throw down the best names, the most likely names we could come up with, and then we'll make one pick out of them and see where we end up. As far as MVP candidates for the American League, Mike Trout of the Angels, as long as he is playing, is always going to be an MVP candidate. Your Cabreras, Milky, and what's his nuts, they're always putting up huge. Miguel, they're always putting up huge offensive numbers when they're healthy as well. And the thing about baseball that's hard to pick your MVPs and your Cy Young Award winners is team success plays very little into the winners of these awards, unlike the way it does in the NBA and the NFL, especially where, your MVP's got to come from one of the best teams almost always. In baseball, that's not the case at all. It's very much a player of the year award. And so, like I said, it's really tough. But there's going to be plenty of candidates off the Blue Jays. Batista, Encarnacion, Tulowitzki, and Donaldson all going to have a shot. Machado and Davis on the Orioles will both have a chance. Kane and Gordon for the Royals will also be in contention for the MVP, and who knows who else. I'm sure there'll be at least one or two names that I didn't have written down here that will be up for the award. But I think it's going to come down to the best Blue Jay or Mike Trout. And since I have no idea which one of the Blue Jays is going, if Encarnacion, Batista, Tulowitzki, Donaldson, I have no idea which one of them is going to do the best. I'm inclined to say Donaldson. But let's just lock it. Let's do the safe, all-world talent that is Mike Trout for our AL MVP prediction for this year. And then for Cy Young candidates, we've got Dallas Keuchel from the Astros, King Felix Hernandez on the Mariners, Chris Sale on the White Sox, R.A. Dickey for the Blue Jays, Jared Weaver on the Angels, C.J. Wilson on the Angels as well, and Kluber for the Indians. Those are my top Cy Young picks in the AL. And we're going to go with We're going to go with R.A. Dickey to win the Cy Young because he, being the starting pitching ace for the Toronto Blue Jays and all the bats and run production that they're going to get this year, R.A. Dickey is going to end up with somewhere between 24 and 32 wins. R.A. Dickey might win 30 games this year as a starting pitcher, starting for the Blue Jays, if he and the rest of his team can stay healthy for the majority of the year. So boom, there you go. R.A. Dickey, man, I cannot wait. I almost want to fast forward through time now and get to October, time warp, just so that I can see who wins the Cy Young. Because, man, I really feel like I'm onto something with this one, with the R.A. Dickey pick. And I just like saying Dickey. It's a great name for Balls Deep Sports Talk. You can't talk enough Dickey on Balls Deep Sports Talk. But for those of you who understand symmetry, that puts us at the halfway point of our baseball regular season preview prediction portion of this show. Man, that was a lot of P's. So now that we are done with the American League and our predictions for that, we will move on over to the National League, where pitchers still have to hit and all kinds of crazy backward old-time thinking and practices still take place. I'm just teasing. But in the National League, I think the national team, by the way, for the record, is the better league by far this season, than the American League. And I'm an American League guy, obviously, being a Twins man my whole life. But I look at the teams in the National League this year, and I think probably my four, I see at least four teams or more that not only should be good, but should be good enough to contend for the championship. Where when I'm looking in the AL, I see the Blue Jays and I see the Royals, and then maybe the Astros and Angels, or maybe the Rangers, maybe the Orioles. But we're really getting to maybes. In the National League, we've got some strength, and of course, it starts in the Central Division, which was historically good last year. Where all three of the top three teams in the National League Central last year all made the playoffs, which is the maximum that any team can have, because you've got one division winner and then a maximum of 2 wild card teams. Both came from the Central last year, and all three of them had over 90 wins. And in fact, they were the 3 best teams in all of baseball throughout the regular season last year. That's right. The best team throughout the whole year last year in the regular season, the second best team, and the third best team all played in the NL Central Division last year. And last year that order went Cardinals, Pirates, Cubs. Well, one of those teams is going to stay in the same place, according to my predictions, this year. But the other will switch spots. So we are going to start with my prediction for who will win the NL Central, and of course I'm going with the hot consensus, majority rules pick, and that is the Chicago Cubs. Theo Epstein, in just a couple years, that guy is an absolute baseball genius. Love him or hate him, you cannot argue and deny the results that Theo Epstein yields everywhere he goes to work in professional baseball. It is what it is. You can't argue it, you're wrong. So, you can always argue it, I guess, but why argue something if you know you're going to be wrong? I don't know. Guess my wife would say I do it all the time. But they've got so much young talent, Chris Bryant and the rest. They've got amazing pitching with Jake Arrieta and other quality arms in that rotation. And I very much believe that this is the year that the Cubs do return to the top of their division. So the Cubs win the Central with 90-plus wins, and behind them, finishing in second place, will be once again the Pittsburgh Pirates, who will have around 90 or so wins. They will have one of the 2 wild card spots. The other wild card spot will stay in the NL Central, just like last year, and it will go to the St. Louis Baseball Cardinals, who will finish somewhere between 85 and 90 wins and will make the playoffs. This is very much a three-team division.